Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to determine an opportunity cost of a decision. A huge part of our lives is about making decisions, but how do you know which decision is the right one? When we're presenting with a decision, it's rarely cut and dry. Most of the time, decisions have to be thought out rationally. If the decision was easy, then it wouldn't be a question whatsoever. You would just go with the most logical choice. Most choices in life are murky or unclear. You don't really know which one is the best path. They all involve a lot of assumptions and trade-offs about which is the best decision for you. And basically this is opportunity cost. What we give up for something else that we want. What is the true cost of making your decision, whether it's time, money, or something else? There's always something that we give up when we're making these kinds of decisions. The goal is to maximize and optimize your choices so you get the most out of your decision. And once you master the art of analyzing your opportunity cost, you'll be in a much better decision to make great choices. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what's an opportunity cost, why it's so important, and my tips and suggestions on thinking through an opportunity cost. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And let's do this. So first, let's talk about what is opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is the loss of potential gain from other alternatives when one alternative is chosen. Basically, it means when you're picking something, you're not choosing the other thing. Both items can be important to you, so you lose out on the opportunity if you pick one of those things. Say you have a day free, what do you want to do with that day? If you decide to go to the beach, you can't do anything else. So that's opportunity cost, weighing the decision between going to do something and missing out on something else. And usually in a business type setting, it's what we want to buy. So what do we want to purchase and foregoing something else? And for another example, say you have $20, do you choose to go to a movie or do you buy a book with it? When we make a deliberate choice to go with one decision or the other, we can't go back in time. We can't do that other decision. So you have to be sure you're picking the right one for you. Usually when you do an opportunity cost assessment, the stakes are a little bit higher than that. It's something usually long-term or more important in your life. Say for example, if you're making an important decision and you want to weigh the pros and cons of each of those decisions. Think of deciding on what school to go to, what career path you want, or what kind of job you want to accept the offer from. Big decisions are very hard, and you need to be very clear of the opportunity costs you might be missing out on if you choose something else. And you have to weigh the cost of everything to make sure that the decision that you're making is a good one and that you won't regret it later. So now let's talk about why opportunity costs are so important. Number one, less regrets later. When you know all of your opportunity costs in a decision, you regret less later. And this is very big because in all of our life's decisions, we always have some form of regret. It's just how big or how small is that regret? Something that we should or shouldn't have done just because we didn't know all the information at hand. For myself, the more complete my decisions are, the more comfortable I am with that decision living on later in life. I have less regret overall. In my early life, there was a lot of things that I've regretted because I didn't do my homework on it and I didn't realize what the opportunity cost of them were. And it has given me a lot of pain points because I always try to look back and try to think of how I can change it. By knowing all the opportunity costs going into the decision, you can minimize your regret of it later. You can lower the regret you might have on making a wrong career choice, spending time with someone that you didn't want to, or spending money on things that you didn't ultimately want. Number two, carefully weighing the options. When you take time and go through an opportunity cost analysis, you start to slow down and understand what are all the decisions. So basically, you spend more time thinking about it. You can then start to flesh out more and more of the details of that decision, helping you make a more informed decision. Especially for those decisions that you think are straightforward, taking time and weighing all the options carefully might help you find something that you didn't otherwise see in that decision and help you make a more informed decision. For example, I've known many people who decided to take another job for the money and change of scenery. But once they spent a few weeks there, they quickly realized that that job wasn't for them and they wanted to quit. Maybe it was long hours or bad cultural fit, but something tells me that they didn't do all the research into that job before accepting the position. When we look deeper into different options of our choice, we tend to be more detailed about it. And we give our mind the space and time it needs to create alternate realities so we can think through our decision. So either good or bad, we can be more informed with our decision. And number three, a skill for the future. When we do an opportunity cost assessment, we're gaining another skill set that's helpful for our future. Most of the time when we're going through an opportunity cost, it's a significant decision, but it doesn't have to be. It can really be used in our everyday life. It's a skill that can help us in other facets of our life. We make decisions every single day. Who we hang out with, what do we buy, what do we spend our time on? And going through an opportunity cost analysis can be helpful for everyday decisions as well. Because even the mundane things, you can spend the time and think about what is the best option for me. Are you maximizing the best available decision for you, or are you wasting your time? Starting out, this can be difficult because most people, when they're making a decision, they're not looking at both sides of it. It's a hidden secret, but most of the choices that we make are pre-made in our head even before we see the decision. And we were going to make a decision regardless of the other opportunities that we had. Try it out. Think of some of the decisions that you made recently. Was it an actual decision, or did you already know what you were going to do even before the decision? When we start to bring the opportunity cost analysis into our day-to-day decisions, it helps us refine that skill. It gives us the ability to slow down even our simple decisions and make sure that we're making the best decision in the meanwhile. You are building your thinking muscle that will help you not only for large decisions, but small ones as well. So now let's talk about some of the tips I have for identifying opportunity costs. Number 1, do I need this? When you're assessing a decision, ask yourself, what do I gain from it? Do I really need it? Sometimes when we get a decision, we feel like we want to move forward and progress. But we don't have to perpetually move forward and make that decision. We can choose not to make the decision in the first place. Check in with yourself and assess the situation. Do I really need to make this decision? What will I really gain from it? For example, if the decision you're making can impact you financially or from a time perspective and you don't want to make that decision, then look into it if it's right for you. Sometimes the best decision is the one that's never made. Think about whether or not the decision is right for you to even progress in the first place. Because we don't want to trick ourselves into thinking that there's only 2 options available. There's always an option to do nothing when practical. Number 2, short versus long term. Will this decision affect me in the short term or in the long term? And if it does, good or bad? This is the classic of when you're thinking through a problem, how will it affect you in the short and long term? Is there one that's better for you or not? So way back in high school, I learned of a classic example of Tina Leland. She had the choice of repairing her car brakes or buying a new sweater. And guess what she chose? She chose the sweater. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, her brakes failed and she got into a minor car accident. She was okay because this is only a fictional example, but it highlights the need to think about things in short-term and long-term consequences. As I've gotten older, I started to realize that I made a lot of decisions in my past based on short-term gain, but not long-term gain. So for example, moving from job to job, I had to start from bottom again and I had to earn my reputation back up. Or spending my times on certain hobbies that helped me in the short term, but then I didn't really want to do it when I thought about it in the long term. This exercise can be difficult because you have to think about the short-term pros and cons and the long-term pros and cons and kind of weigh them both. But the point is to try as best as you can to think of those things in the first place so that it can help you make a more informed decision. Because like anything in life, the more informed we are, the better we are at making a correct decision. Number 3, external circumstances. When we make a decision, we usually tend to focus inward and onto ourselves and how our decision affects only ourselves. But taking in outside factors can be really critical in assessing our opportunity costs. This can be thinking about how our choices can impact other people in our lives, whether that's good or bad for them and ourselves. When you have a decision to make, try as best as you can to visualize each path you can take and how that affects other people. So for example, say a friend comes to you asking for money. Do you give him the money or do you not? The easy decision is to just give him the money that he asks. But the longer term consequence of that is he might be reliant on you for that money in the future as well. So he might end up borrowing more and more money from you in the long term. So you might think that you're helping him in the short term, but over the long term, you might be hurting him. One of the reasons why decisions are so hard is because when we're weighing the opportunity cost, it just doesn't affect ourselves. It might affect other people as well. And we usually make a decision without understanding all of the opportunity costs associated with that and just go with our gut. And then we try to justify that decision as being correct later. When we do the upfront work and think about the external circumstances of our decisions, it can help us make a more informed decision for the future. It can be hard, but try to take in other people's perspectives of your decision. Number 4, do the money math. When you make a decision that involves money, do the math first and make sure it checks out. And if we don't have all the numbers, assume something and go with that. So this is to really help us to get out of the mindset of guesswork. When we have something as concrete as money, we can do the opportunity cost of it and make sure we come out ahead. So for example, what is the opportunity cost of doing an oil change yourself or having some dealership do it for you? You could theoretically do it cheaper if you have all the supplies and you know how to do it. But what if you don't? What if you don't know the first thing about oil changes? Then if you do the opportunity cost, going to the dealership might be the better option for you. It's not always clear, especially if you have to take in your own time and cost into consideration. But if you assume your time is worth some dollar amount per hour, then you can get an understanding of what you're willing to pay or get someone else to do it for you. So if you're looking at something that's money-based, it's pretty straightforward. Just run the numbers. If you don't know what numbers to use, assume something and move forward. And number 5, align with your greater goals. When you're looking at a decision and weighing the opportunity costs, make sure it aligns with your overall goals and plans. Really make sure that the decision that you're making makes sense for you over the short and long term. When we're looking at the opportunity cost of a decision, sometimes it's very helpful to try to see which decision aligns with your greater goals. Because sometimes a decision might not be in our best interest, and it doesn't help our overall goals in life. So for example, if you decide to take on a new job, but that it requires longer hours, do you take that job knowing that you have a small child at home? If your goal in life is to have a great career, then maybe you do take that job. But if your goal in life is to be a great parent, maybe you don't take that job. I'm not here to tell you which is the right or wrong answer, but whatever the choice you make sure it aligns with your greater goal. Because the decisions that you make that aligns with your life's goal will make it much easier for you in the long run, and it lessens the chance that you could make a costly mistake with either your time or money. So those are some of my tips when looking at opportunity costs when making a decision. When making a decision, especially a difficult one, we want to make sure we looked at all the opportunity costs before making that choice. Because if we don't, we might regret it later in life. Exploring and visualizing different opportunity costs can really help us look at the potential gain and loss of our choices. So some of the main keys when you're looking at opportunity costs is to look at it from the short and long-term perspective, making sure that you have an external perspective, and making sure that it aligns with your life's goals. Making good decisions are not always easy, but when we look at opportunity costs, we can make a better informed decision when making our choices. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on whether or not you've thought through a tough decision before using opportunity costs. And I'll see you next time.